For 29 years, Green Bay carried the weight of its own history. This was the town Vince Lombardi built into a dynasty, the birthplace of the Ice Bowl and 5 championships in 7 years. Then the trophies stopped coming, and an entire generation of fans grew up hearing about glory days they'd never actually seen for themselves. In 1996, that finally changed. A gambler's quarterback, a preacher who rushed the passer, and a coach who'd learned from the best in San Francisco brought a Lombardi trophy back to Lambeau Field, giving an entire fan base something to celebrate that most of them had never witnessed firsthand. Now, we're going back to that championship season, starting with the quarterback who made Green Bay believe again. Number 1. Brett Favre. On the second offensive play of Super Bowl 31, Brett Favre dropped back, spotted Andre Rison streaking down the sideline, and let it fly. 54 yards later, Green Bay had a touchdown, and Favre had set the tone for the rest of the night. He tore off his helmet and sprinted down the sideline in celebration, looking less like a champion executing a game plan and more like a kid who couldn't believe what had just happened. That contradiction defined Favre's entire career. He played quarterback like a gambler at a card table, throwing into coverage other quarterbacks wouldn't dare test, and more often than not, he made it work. General manager Ron Wolf had traded a first-round pick for him in 1992 when Favre was buried on Atlanta's bench, a decision that looked questionable until Favre took over as Green Bay's starter and simply never came off the field again. Over 16 seasons in Green Bay, Favre won 3 consecutive NFL MVP awards from 1995 through 1997, a feat no other player has matched. He led the Packers to back-to-back Super Bowl appearances, winning it all after the 1996 season and falling just short the following year against Denver. His NFL record for consecutive starts, 297 in the regular season, stood as a testament to a toughness that became as much a part of his legend as his arm. Teammates described a quarterback who treated every practice like it was Sunday, someone who played the sport with a joy that never quite faded no matter how many hits he absorbed. That same recklessness that made him thrilling to watch also occasionally cost his team, and Favre never pretended otherwise. He simply kept slinging the ball year after year, refusing to play it safe. Favre retired in 2010 as the NFL's all-time leader in passing yards, touchdowns, and wins. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2016, his first year of eligibility, and Green Bay retired as number 4 that same year. Did Favre's willingness to take risks make him great, or did it simply mean Green Bay got lucky more often than they got burned? If you remember a free agent defensive end choosing Green Bay over bigger markets and better weather, purely because he believed it was where God wanted him, you already know who transformed this defense next. Number 2, Reggie White. In 1993, Reggie White did something no marquee free agent had done before him. Rather than signing with a glamour franchise in a major market, White chose Green Bay, a small, cold city that hadn't fielded a championship contender in over 2 decades. He said publicly that he believed it was where he was meant to be, a decision that stunned the football world and instantly changed how free agency in the NFL would work going forward. White backed up the faith with results immediately. Nicknamed the Minister of Defense for his work as an ordained Christian minister off the field, White brought a combination of size, speed, and technique that made him nearly impossible for opposing tackles to handle one-on-one. In Super Bowl 31, he set a championship game record with 3 sacks in a single contest, a performance that helped seal Green Bay's 35-21 victory over New England. Across 15 NFL seasons split between Philadelphia, Green Bay, and Carolina, White finished with 198 career sacks, a record that stood until Bruce Smith surpassed it years later. He was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year 3 times and earned 13 consecutive Pro Bowl selections. Teammates consistently described him as a gentle, deeply caring presence in the locker room, a striking contrast to the destruction he caused on Sundays. White's decision to sign in Green Bay is often credited with legitimizing the city as a destination for top talent, opening the door for the Packers' sustained success throughout the rest of the decade. His impact on the franchise went well beyond his own statistics. Reggie White died suddenly on December 26, 2004, from cardiac arrhythmia, a condition connected to sleep apnea he had struggled with for years. He was only 43 years old. Both the Eagles and the Packers retired his number 92, making him the only player in NFL history honored that way by two separate franchises. He was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame posthumously in 2006, with his wife and son accepting the honor on his behalf. Stories like these matter because so many fans still remember exactly where they were the day the news broke. If you enjoy revisiting the players and teams that shaped the old NFL, subscribe to Gridiron Rewind. There are many more Sundays still waiting to be brought back into the conversation. Number 3. Leroy Butler. On December 26, 1993, in one of the coldest games ever played at Lambeau Field, Leroy Butler forced a fumble against the Raiders that Reggie White scooped up and lateraled back to him along the sideline. Butler took off toward the end zone, and when he crossed the goal line, he did something nobody in Green Bay had ever seen a player do before. He leaped into the arms of the fans waiting in the stands. Nobody planned it. Butler later said it happened purely on instinct, a burst of pure joy after years of losing seasons, finally starting to turn the other way. The gesture caught on almost instantly, spreading to teammates and eventually becoming a permanent tradition at Lambeau Field known as the Lambeau Leap, still performed by Packers players after every home touchdown more than 3 decades later. Butler's on-field resume stood on its own without the celebration attached to it. Drafted out of Florida State in 1990, he became the first defensive back in NFL history to record at least 35 career interceptions and 20 career sacks, a rare blend of coverage instincts and pass-rushing ability that redefined what teams expected from the safety position. He earned 4 Pro Bowl selections and 4 All-Pro honors across 12 seasons, all of them spent in Green Bay. Off the field, Butler often spoke about overcoming a childhood bone condition that kept him from walking normally as a young child, wearing leg braces years before he ever set foot on a football field. He credited that early struggle with shaping the patience that carried him through a 16-year wait for Hall of Fame induction, finally arriving in 2022. His mother had helped him write his enshrinement speech years earlier, certain the honor would eventually come. She passed away in 2016, 6 years before he delivered it in Canton. If a safety inventing an entire touchdown tradition sounds like the kind of story only this team could produce, wait until you hear about the receiver nobody wanted, who somehow became a Super Bowl legend anyway. Number 4. Desmond Howard. By the time Desmond Howard arrived in Green Bay in 1996, he was widely considered one of the biggest draft busts of the decade. Washington had taken him 4th overall in 1992 after he won the Heisman Trophy at Michigan, expecting a dynamic receiver. Instead, Howard caught just 5 touchdowns in 3 underwhelming seasons before bouncing to Jacksonville and then Green Bay, valued now mostly for his speed in the return game rather than his hands. The Packers didn't need him to catch passes. They needed a returner, and Howard delivered a season nobody saw coming. He led the NFL with 875 punt return yards, an NFL record that still stands today, and scored 3 return touchdowns during the regular season alone. Then the postseason arrived, and Howard somehow found another gear. In the NFC divisional round against San Francisco, he returned a punt 71 yards for a touchdown in the mud. In Super Bowl 31 itself, with New England cutting Green Bay's lead to 27-21 in the third quarter, Howard fielded the ensuing kickoff and returned it 99 yards for a touchdown, still the longest return in Super Bowl history. He finished the game with a Super Bowl record 244 combined return yards and became the first, and to this day, the only special teams player ever named Super Bowl MVP. Howard played parts of 11 NFL seasons in total, but that single year in Green Bay transformed how his career would be remembered forever. After retiring, he built a long career as a television analyst, becoming a familiar face on ESPN's college football coverage for decades. Was Howard's Super Bowl performance simply one incredible night, Or does it reveal something about the special teams still hiding inside plenty of failed first-round picks? Number 5. Antonio Freeman. Antonio Freeman caught the first touchdown pass of Super Bowl 31, hauling in Brett Favre's 54-yard strike just moments into the game and setting the tone for everything that followed. It was a fitting moment for a young receiver who over the following seasons would become one of Favre's most trusted targets during Green Bay's championship run. Drafted in the third round out of Virginia Tech in 1995, Freeman developed quickly into a genuine deep threat, pairing precise route running with the kind of concentration that let him make difficult catches in traffic. By 1998, he led the Packers with 1,424 receiving yards and earned his only Pro Bowl selection, cementing himself as the primary receiving option in Green Bay's high-powered offense. Perhaps his most famous individual moment came a year after the Super Bowl win, in a 1998 Monday Night Football game against Minnesota, when Freeman caught a deflected pass off his shoulder pads while falling to the ground, somehow completing the catch for a game-winning touchdown in overtime. Fans still call it one of the most improbable plays in franchise history. Freeman spent 8 of his 9 NFL seasons in Green Bay, finishing his career there with over 8,000 receiving yards and 57 touchdown catches, both among the franchise's best totals for a wide receiver at the time of his retirement. Teammates remembered him as confident and occasionally brash, a receiver who backed up his personality with the plays to match it. After football, Freeman remained connected to the Green Bay community, working in sports media and staying visible at team alumni events for years afterward. Number 6. Mike Holmgren. When Mike Holmgren arrived in Green Bay in 1992, he brought a system he had helped refine as an assistant under Bill Walsh in San Francisco, the same precise timing-based passing offense that had already won 2 Super Bowls with the 49ers. What Holmgren didn't have yet was a quarterback capable of running it at that level. That changed almost immediately when general manager Ron Wolf traded for a raw, largely unproven backup named Brett Favre. Holmgren's patience with Favre paid off almost immediately. In his first season, the Packers improved by 5 wins. By 1995, Green Bay won its first division title in 23 years. The culmination came in Super Bowl 31, when Holmgren's team dismantled New England 35-21, delivering Green Bay its first championship since the Lombardi era ended nearly 3 decades earlier. Holmgren compiled a 75-37 record over 7 seasons in Green Bay, developing not just Favre, but an entire coaching tree that would go on to shape the league for years. Assistants under him during those seasons, including Andy Reid, John Gruden, and Steve Mariucci, all became NFL head coaches themselves, spreading Holmgren's offensive philosophy across the league. He left Green Bay after the 1998 season to become head coach and general manager of the Seattle Seahawks, a decision he has said fans still ask him about decades later. In Seattle, he built another contender, eventually taking the Seahawks to their first Super Bowl appearance in franchise history. Despite 3 Super Bowl appearances as a head coach and a career regular season record of 161-111, Holmgren has not yet been inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He was named a finalist in early 2025, but was not among those ultimately selected, extending a wait that continues to frustrate many who watched him build champions in 2 different cities. Does Holmgren's absence from Canton reflect a genuine oversight in how the Hall evaluates coaches, or is a 3-team, 17-year resume simply not enough when so many other candidates are waiting in line? The 1996 Green Bay Packers ended the longest championship drought in franchise history, bringing a Lombardi trophy back to a town that measured entire decades by how long it had been since the last one. This wasn't a roster built on one singular talent. It was a quarterback who threw with reckless confidence, a free agent who chose loyalty over money, a safety who turned raw joy into a lasting tradition, and a coach who quietly built one of the most influential offensive systems in modern football. Nearly 3 decades later, this team is remembered less for any single record and more for what it gave back to a city that had waited so long to feel like Titletown again. So does this Packers roster belong among the truly great championship teams of the modern NFL? Or was it simply the right group of players arriving in Green Bay at exactly the right time? Tell us what you remember about that season, especially if you watched it live. And subscribe to Gridiron Rewind as we keep bringing back the players, coaches, and teams that shaped the old NFL.